Rape is not easy to talk about, but it's a problem that's getting worse, especially for young people. A recent government campaign highlighted the issue.
Stop being mean.
I don't want to.
I want to find out what's going on. I'm going to speak to women who are survivors of rape to try to understand what effect it has on people's lives. I'm starting in Aberdeen. I'm meeting Sarah Scott, a young mum who has agreed to speak openly to me about her attack just 2 years ago.
Sarah?
Yeah, hi.
I'm Pips.
Hi, nice to meet you.
She hopes to encourage other women to come forward.
It'd be nice to be able to let my guard down sometimes. Be able to just relax. I haven't relaxed since the day it happened. I just want to be the old Sarah, you know, fun, happy, young girl.
It was Christmas time, and like a lot of young people, Sarah and her sister were looking forward to celebrating with a big night out. But for Sarah, things went terribly wrong.
It was just like any other night. You know, I met her at the nightclub. She was already drunk, and one of her friends had a VIP table upstairs, so there were like bottles of vodka on the tables. So I got drunk very, very quickly. We all got kind of separated throughout the night, all of my friends, her flatmates, my sister.
Looking for her sister in the nightclub, Sarah bumped into a guy who was a casual acquaintance, and she asked if he could help her.
And he was like, "It's okay, they're an after party at my house, it's fine." So I didn't doubt it, I had no reason to doubt him. He'd never given me a reason. Yeah, I didn't know him well, but why would someone lie about that? So we left the nightclub and went towards his flat. But when I got there, you know, he opened the door and it was dark inside. I was like, this is not an after party. He grabbed me by the arms and forced me into what I suppose was a bedroom. There was a dirty kind of mattress on the floor, and he pushed me onto it, ripped my clothes off, and then raped me twice. And I tried so hard to get away, and I just felt powerless. He held me down, he punched me, he beat me. I screamed, I kicked him, but I wasn't strong enough. He was a lot stronger than I was. He left the room, told me if I leave, he'll kill me. And I had no idea what to do. I was lying like my own blood on a mattress, thinking, what am I going to do? When I couldn't hear anything, I creeped through to see where he was, and I saw him like sleeping on the couch. That's an image that'll never leave my head. I'm not sure why, I just see him sleeping on the couch.
Sarah ran out of the flat wearing just a bloody dressing gown, looking for someone to help her.
I ran past the bed and breakfast, and there were two men standing outside smoking cigarettes. And I walked up to them, you know, hysterical, "Help me, I've been raped." And they just looked at me in disgust. And
they didn't help you?
No, they went back inside.
Alone and exhausted, Sarah collapsed in the street. 2 CID officers found her and brought her into a police station.
All over my body there were bruises from his hands grabbing me, so I had these little bruises all over me. I suffered from quite severe vaginal tearing and black eye, scratches, cuts. I just remember sitting in the shower, just sitting there crying, watching all this blood drip off me and this dirt, and it just kind of sunk in what happened. And I just wanted to wash, and then I realised that he was inside of me, and even to this day I'll never be clean of that. Never.
Sarah's attacker was arrested that day. He denied raping her.
I don't know, I just think maybe I can move on with my life more if he could just admit that he did this. But he put me through all of that, and I can never forgive someone who did that. I can never.
Sarah's attacker was found guilty of her rape and sentenced to 8 years in prison. The fact that her rapist was tried and convicted sadly makes her case unusual. When police investigate a crime, they bring their evidence to the Crown Prosecution Service, who ultimately decides if the case should go to court. But the CPS drops more than half of the rape cases brought to them by the police. Just 1 in 4 rape cases originally reported actually ends up in court. So if you've been raped and your case does go to trial, you're one of the very few lucky ones. Although it probably won't feel like it.
Where would a victim stand?
A victim would have to come all the way.
Hannah Camplin is a legal expert for rights of women. They support victims going through a trial.
Yeah.
So the victim is actually a witness?
Yes, the victim is the prime witness for the prosecution case, so the first witness that they would call.
Okay, so they don't get a lawyer?
No, the victim has the Crown Prosecution Service lawyer to represent them, but they don't have a lawyer of their own, if you like.
I cannot imagine, like, you're standing here and you just know that someone who attacked you is standing there. That must feel horrible. Do people find it really tough?
I think everyone who's given evidence would say that they find it's not a pleasant experience at all. I think that some people would experience an element of satisfaction in actually telling people what happened.
Okay.
But I think it's really, really important to appreciate that this can be a difficult process, and the best thing to do is to get as much support and advice as you can do before you actually decide to go through this process.
A victim would be in here reliving through everything again, and people are firing questions at you and questioning what happened, and they're doubting what you're saying. It must be really difficult.
Victims now have the option to testify behind a screen or via video link. Some women choose to face their attacker in court, like Sarah, although she wasn't prepared for the ordeal she then experienced.
I was terrified of him. He was a monster in my mind, and I just needed to face that fear. I really needed to see him and realise that he wasn't this terrifying person, he was pathetic. And at the end of that, I felt good. I felt good. I felt like I had accomplished something, but things changed as soon as the defence stood up. You can't prepare yourself for someone accusing you of things that you haven't done when you're not even on trial, and no one stops them. No one objected, no one said this is wrong. He accused me of liking it. General things like that, and it was horrific. It was horrific. I thought I was a victim, but at that point I felt like a criminal.
I asked a senior prosecutor with the Crown Prosecution Service if more could be done to protect victims in court.
We try and make sure that we do protect them. We should also be looking at making sure that the counsel that prosecutes the case and our own advocates are properly instructed, that they are rape specialists, that they do jump up and object if there's cross-examination which is inappropriate.
The defence has their barrister, they have someone fighting their corner. The victim is a witness. Do you think that actually works properly?
I think it's the best system that we have got at the moment, and I think the protections that we've put in help tremendously. I still think there are things that possibly we can look at improving, but the way in which our system is, for any case, not just for rape cases, but for any case, it's an adversarial system where the prosecution presents their case and the defence challenge it.
For some victims, like Sarah, the experience of court feels almost like being attacked all over again. But despite her anger at how she was treated, testifying meant that ultimately she saw her attacker convicted.
Me and my sister stayed in the witness room because neither of us could deal with it if it was bad news. Then, about 15 minutes later, my friend and my mum walked through and they had like a big smile on their faces and said, "Guilty." And I was actually jumping. I mean, if I could still remember how to do cartwheels, I would have done them. They believed me, and that was what was important, that people knew that I wasn't lying about this. This happened to me.
I think Sarah was incredibly brave to stand up in court and testify against her rapist. But how can our justice system make it easier for more women to testify in court and make sure that more rapists are convicted?
There will doubtless be plenty of people who find this subject very disturbing. To those people I say too damn bad. Prepare yourselves for some uncomfortable truths.
The second most liked question this week was from Maddie Howard, who says, since approximately 85,000 women are raped on average in England and Wales every year, when will we blame the perpetrators and help end sexual violence?
Maddie Howard's approximations are roughly 4 times greater than they should be. Indeed, there is no need to approximate the number of recorded rapes. We know exactly how many, 22,116 in England and Wales. And this is including a 29% rise since 2013 from 17,096. Even if we include all other sexual offences in the same category as rape, the total is still only 67,805. Making sexual offences the second least common form of crime in England and Wales, with only the murder rate being lower.
That's from Maddie.
OK, so when will we blame the perpetrator, when will we stop victim blaming? Lisa?
Well, I think quite simply when we've got a culture change and when we face up to the fact that we have problems with attitudes across society, but most importantly, in positions of responsibility. So this year we've seen, for example, a 13-year-old girl who'd been groomed and then raped by a number of men in court being accused by a prosecution lawyer of being a predator. We've seen women repeatedly blamed for their allegedly sexual behaviour in situations like that. Girls in Rochdale, for example, blamed by the people who were supposed to protect them for making a lifestyle choice. And we see it over and over and over again. And actually, I think we need to do a couple of things. The first is that I think we need to accept that we've got a problem, and we need to put much more money into supporting people to come forward, to make their voices heard and to get that support when they do. You know, what we've seen in the last few years is we've seen charities who help rape survivors being cut back. We've seen the schemes in courts that are supposed to help witnesses and protect them from that sort of aggressive questioning, stalling. But I think we also really need to take a long, hard look at the sort of leadership that we're showing in this country. You know, when you've got footballers like Ched Evans, who doesn't accept that he's committed a crime, walking back into a job where he is a highly paid role model in his community, and you don't have leadership from public figures, including politicians, saying this is absolutely wrong and something needs to change. That's when you create a vacuum, and these are the sort of attitudes that are allowed to flourish, and that's the end result.
And
I completely agree with everything you're saying there. And to add to that, you've got people like Dapper Laughs making it funny. It's funny to laugh at a woman getting raped. If
you know the trick to getting the bra off quickly, she's yours. Turn around and lift up your fucking shirt. Make a girl laugh, you make her moist. I was going to tell you a joke about me cock, but it's too long. Like that, did you get your gash out then? If she's looking at me and playing with her hair, by the end of the night, she'll need a wheelchair. But how do you know if she's interested? It's easy, there's one thing you've got to do. Just show her your penis. If she cries, she's just playing hard to get.
hilarious to think about either stabbing her or her having sex with you. And it's sometimes, as a British Muslim, I stand in the kind of, a lot of people who will understand that, I stand at a crossroads, and I think, you look at Muslim women in a hijab and you say oppressed, don't have a voice, can't do what you want, under a man's thumb, and then you kind of sometimes look at Western world and say, oh no, that woman has everything, she works, she does this, she does that. Well, actually, it's not as clear-cut as that. And in Britain, where we are today, in fact, a national survey found that a lot of police forces in our country are under-reporting some of the most serious crimes, including rape and sexual violence. It's easy to go over and say the other, that stigmatised, that other, you know, the hijabi, whatever, is the one who's oppressed. We're free. We've got it sorted. We haven't. And the first bit of solving this is actually having a police force, of having a government, of having policies that support the victim rather than perpetrators. That's the first thing.
And I would say that one of the most important things around that is about what we do in schools. So we don't have sexual and relationships education in most schools at the moment. It's not compulsory on the curriculum. And there's a real problem, actually, because what we know is that a significant minority of boys at school don't understand concepts like consent. So we keep saying to girls, you need to protect yourself and you need to keep yourself safe. But actually, we're not looking at boys too, and we're not sitting with them with
just very quickly, it's all well and good to know what a fallopian tube is when you're in year 6 or year 9 or whatever, and most people here have done sexual education and sex education, understand that. But consent, geez, the very basics of it, we don't understand.
James, so is this a cultural problem in this country?
I don't think that there is a so-called rape culture. I think it's a very emotive phrase. I think most men. I think most men know that no means no. I don't think that that we've become more of a rapey society. But I think one of the points you made, you referred, I think, to the grooming gangs in Rochdale and in Rotherham, and it's not just in the north. It's in Telford, in Norfolk. It's happened. We've got these organised gangs, mostly of Muslim origin. I think we need to. It's a fact.
It is also a fact that a majority.
Let me finish. Thank you very much. You outrageous interrupt.
Okay, let him finish and then come back in.
I'm not spreading lies.
I'm just telling you what the member of that audience are actually. They are screaming at you.
Why don't you read
that girl
the
is screaming at you.
If you look at the names that have come up in the court cases, you will find that most of them are of Kashmiri, Pakistani origin.
So that's Nullifer now, please.
You talk about rape culture. It's a very pretty state of affairs when the police and the social workers would not deal with this problem because they were too embarrassed about being called racist.
You're turning a question about sexual violence into one about religion. First point. Second point.
Talking about
can I just finish? Second point. You and I know, James, that a majority of rapes and sexual violence perpetrated in this country is done by white Caucasian people. We know this. I want to finish.
You did.
Do you know what? A lot of the time, as someone who works in the news, I get a bad rap, right, for kind of skewing opinions and going, oh, well, Muslims done it. And, you know, fair play to that. Sometimes that does happen in the media. But what's worse is when someone's...
When somebody speaks the truth,
why don't you?
Call them a liar.
Do you agree or disagree that the majority...
I totally agree with you.
So what are you saying?
Because the majority of the population is white. So, inevitably, statistically, you're going to get that problem.
Move away from you two now, I think. Yes, gentleman here.
Does it really matter if they're black, white, orange, yellow? It's like, at the end of the day, rape is rape and they should get hung.
I think James's attitude is symptomatic of the whole Islamophobia discussion. because bringing religion into emotional matters unnecessarily does not help anyone. It only antagonises things. And I think that as far as the rape culture goes, there is a problem. It's, you know, it was in 1991 that marital rape was finally made illegal. That's not that long ago. I was 7 years old at that time. I think part of the problem is that too many people now just see rape as something which, the woman was asking for it. You know, women, as you were saying before, cannot win. They either are wearing Islamic dress and they're called oppressed, or they're slut-shamed.
Can I just go back to what that gentleman said over there? When I prosecuted cases and I dealt with cases, what I found is that you had people who committed rape were from all different backgrounds, because we have evil people in society for all different backgrounds. That is it. There are people from all different backgrounds who commit evil acts.
Yeah, lots of people are reacting to James's comments before. That generalisation is abhorrent. Ched Evans isn't Muslim. This from Bridget. There's no such thing as rape culture, says the man. Shocking. Maddie, who asked the question in the first place, says violence against women is an epidemic fuelled by the undercurrent of misogyny. And this one from Dr. CDF. We need to take a good, long, hard look at how sexist our society still is. The truth is, there'll be no freedom without...
Okay. Yeah, lady here, please.
There's a lot of cases that go undiscovered because women feel too scared to come forward because they feel that they may be judged because how they dress, how they look and how they behave. Maybe they may have drunk too much, or maybe they may not have been in the right frame of mind, but that should never, ever, ever be an excuse.
Okay, yeah, lady at the back here.
I know it's probably an unpopular view, but I completely agree that it is, in some areas, largely rape is committed by Muslims, because I grew up in Bradford, all right, and in that kind of environment it is mainly Asian men, not because it's something about their culture, but because they're not getting caught. Like, I've had friends who've been raped and the police have told them that because it's an Asian man that's done it, probably not going to catch them. It happens all the time.
What has anything to do with not catching them?
I don't know
because they're not engaged.
Okay, no,
the police are too scared of being called racist to do anything. Like, there's just such a divide between...
So the police are scared of being called racist, is your point? Do you lend any credence to that idea, maybe?
I don't know what planet these police are living on. Are they actually saying to people, yeah, you know, I'm just going to put the phone down now because it's an Asian person, so
That's
don't
what they did. That's what they did.
I don't think that they knew that. You know, I think there needs to be an adult debate about these issues. Just going back to the original question and to some of the feedback as well, you know, there is a wider debate, and I mean this really seriously. I think in Britain, as a culture, we are scared of female sexuality. We really are. And so there's a massive debate to have around that. We need a culture shift, because this whole idea that if a woman is a bit tipsy or if she's wearing a short skirt, then, you know, maybe, you know, the song Blurred Lines, there are no blurred lines, actually. Like, no means no, and, you know, rape is completely unacceptable in any context, and I think that's what we should really be talking about. And women, you know, should not be afraid in any way to express their sexuality.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important...
I think we can all agree that rape is totally...